We know Marisol Rubio's here. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm not going to even say much except to just bring this meeting to order so that we can start on this. Only thing I would say is that if anyone has any specific questions that they'd like to ask Marisol, you can put it in the chat and I'll be looking at that and choosing some appropriate questions. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Marisol.
So
Well,
Marisol has a 3-minute opening, is that correct?
Probably a little under 2 minutes, my opening, so you'll have plenty of time.
Okay,
have
I'll
to
just
head
time
to-
it. All right.
Yes, and I have until 6:45, and then I have to zip out to city council, so I apologize.
We appreciate your coming. Thank you.
No, thank you, thank you.
Well, welcome, Marisol.
Okay,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Should I just start?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great.
Tell us who you are. Tell us who you are.
Okay, great. I'm Marisol Rubio, and I'm running for State Senate District 9 because we need a senator with lived experience to address our most complex and pressing issues. My mother was a first-generation immigrant and single parent of 3 girls who earned a master's degree in education and taught in a high-need school district for over 30 years. She taught me early in life the value of hard work and perseverance. When my daughter was diagnosed with brain cancer and entered school, I advocated tirelessly, on her behalf against an unresponsive healthcare and education system. And because of those efforts, she is now a long-term survivor and a college student with a double major. Today, using the lessons learned from my mother and my personal and professional knowledge and experience, I am fighting daily to improve my community's quality of life and to help families who are struggling like mine. I am the only candidate in this race who has been a lifelong Democrat, doesn't accept money from entities that hurt marginalized populations, and is 100% pro-choice every day and every year. I am a proven champion for the environment, disability, LGBTQ+, and workers' rights, and for quality, affordable education, healthcare, and housing. As a staunch defender of women's reproductive rights and disability rights, I am a founding advisory board member of Fem Truth Youth, a nonprofit that advocates for women's reproductive health and education, and of the Natalie Project, an advocacy fund for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. As an executive committee member for Sierra Club California and the San Francisco Bay chapter, I led several Bay Area environmental groups and the Contra Costa Building and Construction Trades Council in developing a plan to help workers transition to green jobs. As director and vice president of the Dublin San Ramon Services Water District, our district was one out of only 39 out of 2,050 districts to receive an award for good governance and ethical and sound operating practices. And as San Ramon City Council member, I formed the first ever ad hoc climate action council committee to work on establishing a climate commission or committee. And we also approved recently our housing element, which was the first to be approved in Contra Costa County, and have also been a strong advocate for workforce housing. Now, as your state senator, I will bring those successes and more to the state legislature. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, we do have a few questions. I'm also trying to take attendance here, because the people who can vote are the people who are present at the meeting.
Right. Marisol, could you repeat again what's your current job position?
My current elected or personal?
Elected, yeah.
Elected, I'm a city council member for the city of San Ramon.
Oh, okay. And do you also have a job?
Yes, I'm a home care provider.
Oh, okay. Okay. So Dolly, do you are you whenever you want? We had a couple questions for you, Marisol, that we came up with that we thought we'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
Okay,
And
great.
Dolly's the one who is going to ask those. So
I am so sorry. I don't know what happened. My computer just went blank. It's running a little hot for some reason.
so you-
I may try to switch to my other computer, if possible. Anyway, so we have both candidates here, right?
Mhm.
I see that Tim Grayson is also here.
right.
Normally, we would have 3 minutes where, for him to do his opening as well. And then we would ask questions, right?
Yeah, I think in this case, because of the schedule, I really think we should let Marisol go through the program and answer the questions. We're the ones who are going to hear the answers from both of them.
So we're only going to talk to Marisol for the first half hour. Is that what you're saying,
No,
Dave?
it's just for 15 minutes. She has to leave in
15.
10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean,
Yeah.
because she has to leave at 6:45.
Right.
Okay, fine. So Marisol, would you consider yourself more of a progressive or a moderate Democrat?
I'm absolutely the only progressive in this race. 100%. You know, I've been on the progressive side of issues since I got involved in politics in 2015, and I have advocated for progressive values, whether that's Medicare for all, universal, for free college education. I've always been a staunch advocate for the environment. I've been working, as I mentioned, with the Sierra Club, California, and also for the San Francisco Bay chapter now for over 4 years. And I've also, as I mentioned, when I said about being the only one who's 100% pro-choice, my opponent will tell you that he's had 100% from Planned Parenthood, but please understand that's only been for 3 years. The other 4 were between 66% and 80%. That's because he's missed several votes. 150 distinct votes in 2023, and many of them have to do with LGBTQ plus issues. I have them all documented, and have to do with reproductive freedom and other environmental issues, especially. And these are critical issues right now. We're on the heels of Roe v. Wade being overturned. We can't afford to have, someone who's going to waffle on these issues or be absent consistently.
Good answer.
Okay, thank you very much. Second question. How would you give services to unincorporated Alameda County, such as Castro Valley, Ashland, Cherryland, those areas?
Well, for one, we have to work with the county and the community members as well to first identify what are your priorities. And, it's always important to be on the ground, talking with community members up front on a regular basis. It's up to us to reach out to you, not the other way around, which is often the case. I would personally come to you and ask you, what are your priorities? Well, how can I support you? And make sure that I'm not only supporting being an advocate for you on behalf of, the advocacy work with the county, but also at the state level.
Okay, thank you. Our third question that we have here is related to that. And it's, how would you help Castro Valley if it wanted to, and that is not settled yet, whether people want to or not, but how would you help them if they wanted to become incorporated? As you might know, right now there's a Department of Motor Vehicle license fee that is used by cities to help support financially the money coming in for a city to be able to be financially solvent. And that right now is no longer, we're not able to access those fees anymore. So how could you help Castro Valley become incorporated if it wanted to?
Well, first and foremost, again, I think it's working with the city as well as the county and making sure that the county is being supportive in your efforts to want to become incorporated. And I think in terms of cost, really working with the county to see, how much is being appropriated to the county right now on your behalf, and seeing how those funds can be allocated towards helping you become incorporated.
Okay. Are there any questions in the chat, Dave?
I have not seen any questions. I guess I I have a question. Since there's a couple more minutes here, I would just wanted to ask how strongly you feel about alternative energy development. The state, of course, has sort of, I feel, has kind of waffled a little on that. The governor has said he wants to go net zero by 2050. I guess I'm just wondering what you mainly would try to do to push that, kind of our transition away from oil and gas.
Well, I'm already doing that without even being in the state senate. That's why I am the co-chair of the Labor Climate Task Force here in Contra Costa County. I'm trying to get our workers to transition to green jobs so that we can transition sooner than later to clean renewable energy. We need to make a concerted investment into infrastructure so that we are able to, the ambitious goal we have, and hopefully we can achieve it, of making sure that, we go all electric vehicles by 2030. We need to be working right now on the ground and creating the infrastructure to make sure we have that infrastructure in place to make that happen sooner than later. And so I am 110% invested in that. And that's work I'm doing now and that I will continue to do across the state.
Very good.
Okay.
That's what I paid for my daughter.
Is
Oops.
I have one of those.
Please mute everybody. Jay,
That doesn't make any sense.
Jay, thank you.
So I got a question here.
Everybody's muted. I can't hear David.
Okay, I unmuted. Okay, I have a question in the chat that's kind of related. It's specifically asking about whether you would support more charging stations for EVs in Castro Valley, because
Absolutely. And there's actually grants available to right now that we can tap into to establish more EV charging stations. And I would hope, I think we should look at technology to try to make it easier and faster to recharge vehicles. I know that's kind of the many people who have electric vehicles, it's just, are there ways that we can charge faster? It's a little bit slow right now, but it's, it's a process, and the sooner we do it, the better.
and do you think there's enough money? Is there enough money? We always talk about this huge budget surplus we have in the state. I guess I feel like there's no, there's like a shopping list of things we need. So our club in particular, I think, is very progressive on the environmental protection stuff. So
Yes, well, the question of is there money is, that we, at the end of the day, of course, there's a finite amount of money. It's what we prioritize. And frankly, in my opinion, if we don't have a habitable planet, everything else really doesn't matter anymore because we don't have a habitable planet. So I think prioritizing the environment is always, should always be a priority.
okay, great. Unless anyone else has a comment, we don't want to. It's 6:44, so we're going to stay on schedule for you, Marisol.
Sure, and Emma, should I do a closing or anything?
Yes, yeah, you can have a minute or two, sure, if you please.
Okay, great. Thank you. Democrats, you have an important choice in this election, and our future depends on it. I am the only candidate in this race who's 100% choice, an environmentalist, and a lifelong Democrat. Please look at Mr. Grayson's record. Courage California states that he avoids committee and assembly floor votes on critical legislation, especially those that stand up to big oil and women's reproductive rights. That's why in 2022, he earned a 30% from Sierra Club and was the only Democrat labeled hostile to reproductive freedom by NARAL. On the heels of Roe v. Wade being overturned and the climate crisis rapidly unfolding, we need a senator who will champion our democratic values, and that's me. Why? Because I have a vested interest in affecting change. I have proven that through my volunteer work and elected positions. That's why I'm supported by the East Bay Young Dems, SEIU California, CTA, CSEA, NUHW, and Kadam Renters Council. We don't have time for middle of the road politics of the past. We deserve a senator who's pushing for progress and fighting for a better world. Your choice, our future. Please vote for me, Marisol Rubio, for State Senate District 9. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Marisol. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening, everyone.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Okay, so anyway, I wanted to thank Tim Grayson for joining us. I actually I invited him before, and then the campaign said yes, but then we never had the meetings. We didn't have the review meeting. So, but anyway, thank you very much. We really would love to hear from you. And so I think we'll try to stick on the same format we just used to make it fair. You know, you can have an introduction and we'll ask you some of the same questions, and then you can close.
Thank you very much, Dave. And
You'll
first,
have 3 minutes, Assembly Member Grayson, for your opening remarks, okay?
Okay, and before that time starts, my apologies. I had to step out of a staff meeting, so I'm in a lobby where there's music. So hopefully the background music will make it
Okay.
a nicer presentation.
Well,
Thank you very much. My name is Tim Grayson, currently the Assembly member for District 15, East Bay. And it's a pleasure to be with you here tonight. A little bit about me. I am a husband of 35 years to my wife, Tammy. We share 2 adult children. We settled in Concord about 30 years ago. And I and her both care very much and deeply about our community. Raising our kids, we saw how living costs skyrocketed. Good paying jobs became a lot harder to come by. And the dream of becoming a homeowner moved further out of reach. And that's nothing to say of healthcare and education being expensive and really often inaccessible. I don't want my children to be priced out of the community that they grew up in. I don't have to get on an airplane to go visit my grandkids because my kids couldn't afford to live where they were raised. So that's why I'm running for state senate. I'm running because I want it better for the next generation. I want it better for our community and our state. And California deserves a bright future. And I want my experience to use my experience to help make that a reality. So currently I do serve as the Assembly member for over half of Contra Costa County's residents, a role that I've been in since 2016. I've been serving as an elected official in some capacity for more than a decade now. I served as on the city council in Concord, served as a council member, vice mayor, and a mayor. And as mayor, I balanced the $90 million budget, built a city's rainy day fund during the Great Recession, and gained invaluable experience on local governance. Around this time, I also served, even to this day, as the critical response chaplain for the Concord Police Department, which is where I worked with victims of violence. It's there that I saw victims had a really hard time facing a hard time getting justice and support, which is what led me to co-found the Central Contra Costa County Family Justice Center, which helps victims of interpersonal violence that includes domestic violence, child abuse, elder abuse, and human trafficking. In the Assembly, I've authored strongest in the nation laws to put a stop to predatory lending, to protect our renters and from unjust evictions and rent hikes, and to help financially vulnerable Californians survive the pandemic. I'm running for the state senate to continue my work that I've done already in the Assembly, finding pathways to grow our economy, create new jobs, support our workers, lead efforts to build more affordable housing faster while protecting our renters, and then always fighting to make our community a better place with a better quality of life for all who live here. So with that, I'll be more than happy to answer questions that you may have.
Okay. Yes, so our first question, you probably did see this. We had to do it sort of a different sequence because Ms. Rubio had a council meeting. So our first question is, would you consider yourself more of a progressive or a moderate Democrat?
Well, I will tell you, I have voted moderately and I have voted progressively, just like every other colleague that I have in the Assembly. Every single one of us have had to cast votes that some would consider moderate, that some would consider progressive. I've been very strong in supporting women's rights to reproductive health. I've been very strong in supporting our LGBT community and our communities of color, especially when it comes to housing. Right now, housing is lower home ownership for Black and brown home ownership is lower today than it was when we had discriminatory laws back in the 1960s. So I vote progressively, and there are times when I vote and someone says, well, that was a moderate vote. So I would tell you that I vote as the bill is before me and the content and the merit of the bill.
Okay, thank you. Question number 2. How would you give services to unincorporated Alameda County places like Castro Valley, Ashland, Cherryland, Hayward Acres, so on and so forth?
Absolutely. And I have experience in this. I helped negotiate this very issue when I was on city council in Concord, where we had unincorporated pockets throughout the city of Concord. And I negotiated between the city that they were wanting to incorporate with, which was Concord, and the county. And some areas wanted to incorporate, some areas didn't. It takes strong negotiations. And then there are times when I think we could help with that through legislation to make that process a smoother process. You also have to negotiate with LAFCO. These are different agencies that you gain experience with while holding a local elected position, which is what I've done. So I have experience in this area and would be more than happy to help Castro Valley, any area that wants to incorporate, to be able to do so in an orderly manner with both the cooperation of the jurisdiction they want to incorporate with, as well as the county.
Okay, and a related question to that
Yes.
is, maybe you partially answered this. How would you help the legislative process, let's say, to help financially support CV to become incorporated if it decided to do that? And that is a big if, because there is no consensus in the town. There isn't really there's a group looking into it, but there isn't really it's not coming up for a vote yet or anything like that. As you know, there's the DMV vehicle fees that help pay for city services, which
Yes.
right now are not able to be used if we became incorporated. How would you fix that?
Absolutely. I don't know necessarily the lines of the unincorporated areas of Castro Valley, but if it was to work out to where Castro Valley was looking at creating or incorporating in itself to become its own possibly general law city or a charter city, that is something that I have experience with again, and would be able to negotiate between the county administrator, which is what is required, as well as the jurisdiction and the administration that is created through that. One of the areas that I believe we could work on together is creating a process through the legislative process, create a process for which we have unincorporated areas throughout all the state of California, and a clearer way, rather than the obstacle course that you find through LAFCO, a clearer way for areas that are unincorporated to become incorporated. And furthermore, this is where legislation comes into play, where we could require DMV to make those fees available for a jurisdiction that wants to become incorporated.
Okay. Thank you. And let's see, the fourth question that that was asked, because we're trying to ask you the same questions as her, was how do you feel about alternative energy?
And I would like to ask you, add to that, do you have any specific ideas about how we can develop that and how we can get to net zero, which is what the governor has asked us to do?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that question. I have been a strong partner with the governor on his efforts to get that to net zero, so much so that I authored AB 844, which was the creation of the Green Empowerment Zone. That Green Empowerment Zone will help transition from fossil fuels to alternative green and clean energies that are 100% green and clean and renewable. The Green Empowerment Zone is in existence. It has started with seed money from the budget. The governor supported it. We are very, very excited about it because the last thing we want to do is to end the use of fossil fuel in Contra Costa County or in the East Bay, and then find ourselves with our hands up in the air because we had no alternative. In other words, we turn into another Rust Belt or another Detroit, Michigan that lost the automotive manufacturers. Here, we are going to transition from fossil fuel to green energy while preserving jobs, good paying jobs of our building trades and those that want to choose to stay and live in the East Bay. So with that, Green Empowerment Zone is a great example, something I've already accomplished and something we continue to move forward with. We are currently working with UC Berkeley on doing a study on both green and clean energy and the jobs that will be required to do that so that we can start workforce training in the Green Empowerment Zone and throughout the East Bay. So I'm very, very excited about that and would love to be able to continue to do that as a senator, continue that program as a senator.
Okay, and the fifth question that Ms. Rubio was asked was related to that one. How would you get more EV charging stations in Castro Valley?
So again, thank you for that question. Been very, very supportive, even of the budget, both last year and this year, that had a tremendous amount of money put toward charging stations and electrification infrastructure. And the whole purpose of that is if we're going to have people transition from combustible engines to electric engines or to electric vehicles, we've got to have the infrastructure. Without the infrastructure, the transition doesn't take place. So with that, I wholeheartedly supported the budget trailer bill for that and look forward to seeing that money put toward the build out of the EV infrastructure that has already begun.
Okay, Dave, he has about 3 minutes left, so we could either ask a question or give him time for a closing.
Yeah,
Dave?
I think the only thing I came
I can't
across
hear.
was, the
Thank
only
you.
thing that I came across was that someone wanted to know
I
how.
sent you guys some questions.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
I
there are
sent
questions
Donald
in the
and
chat.
Dave questions.
okay. You know what? I think Mimi asked this question first, actually. So, she was wondering why you had a 30% record with the Sierra Club. Is that factual or? I mean, that's a fair question, I think.
It is a fair question. I would have to go back and look at that vote record for that specific moment in time. I would like to state that I have cast over 20,000 votes in my tenure in the assembly, and I've only missed a little over 150 votes. Out of that, the reason for missing those votes, which isn't disclosed by my fellow Democrat running for this same seat, is the fact that in the end of session, when we are voting on a lot of bills in one day, I was home because my wife was horribly sick. I took her to the hospital. I ended up horribly sick with MRSA myself. And therefore, 2 of those days, which was a majority of the 150, were because of sickness. I consider myself a healthy person, but there have been times when I've missed votes because I was sick. Otherwise, I do my absolute best to vote on every bill. I do take into consideration that if there is a bill that I cannot go up on that's from a fellow Democrat, I value the relationship of my fellow Democrat to the point that I do not want to be a Democrat that goes up no on a colleague's bill. So I will, just like every single other colleague of mine, I will stay off that bill, just like 100% of all my other colleagues do at the same time. So I would have to go back and look at Sierra Club, but I have a proven track record and a proven vote record on good environmental policy. As a matter of fact, I'll address that in my closing as well.
Okay. I think
Okay.
in fairness, I think we should just go to the closing.
Go to closing.
Yeah. So, because there are a few more questions, but then there's no way to ask those same questions of the other candidates.
Candidate, yeah.
Yes.
So that's 2 minutes on closing, Dave, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Grayson, go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. Thank you again for the questions and the invite for me to be with you tonight. I try my best to be accessible to everyone, so please, if you have questions, forward them to my campaign. I'll do what I can to make sure that I answer every single one of them. It's been an honor to serve my community over the years as an assembly member, as a local mayor, a volunteer chaplain, a nonprofit co-founder, and an engaged citizen, just like all of you on this call today. I have more than 10 years of being an elected official under my belt, including 7 years in the legislature. More than 50 bills that I have authored or joint authored have been signed into law. So I know that I can do this job, and I know I can do it well. I'm proud to have received a 100% scorecard, as was stated by my colleague, by Planned Parenthood multiple years, and to have helped pass nation-leading single-use plastic reduction legislation, and to have been recognized as a clean air policy leader by the Bay Area Air Quality Management District and as a housing leader from Habitat for Humanity. I have with the low NARAL score that I received. It's not because I didn't vote yes on their bill. I did vote yes on their bill, but I didn't know they had a policy that said you have to co-author or joint author to get credit for it, which is why I ended up with 100% with Planned Parenthood and not with NARAL. So I have the honor of being endorsed by my colleagues, like Assembly members